Let me tell you something real. When you truly know who you are, when you understand what you bring to the table, not just emotionally, but spiritually, mentally, and physically, you stop accepting less than what you deserve. Hi, Val. You woman doesn't walk into a room hoping someone will notice her. She walks in knowing she belongs there. She's not desperate for validation, for attention, or for someone to love her just so she can feel whole. She's already whole, she's already enough, and when you know you're enough, you don't have to beg for love. You command it by the way you carry yourself. You see, the problem isn't that women don't have value. The problem is that too many women have forgotten it. Too many have let heartache, betrayal, rejection, and inconsistency make them question their worth. But let me tell you something loud and clear. Your value was never based on someone else's inability to love you right. Your value doesn't decrease because someone couldn't see it. That's their lack of vision, not your lack of substance. Hi, Val. You woman doesn't audition for a role in someone's life. She knows that love is not a competition or a performance. It's not about begging for text messages, waiting for calls, or wondering if she's good enough to be chosen. She chooses herself first, and when she does that, the energy she walks with makes the wrong ones uncomfortable and the right ones stand at attention. You don't have to scream your worth to someone who knows what value looks like. You don't have to explain why you deserve respect, loyalty, or effort to someone who's already done the work to give it. Now understand this, you don't get called hi, Val. You because of your looks, your degrees, or your salary. Those things are great, but they don't define you. What defines a hi, Val? You woman is her ability to walk away from anything that insults her soul. It's her discipline to not entertain disrespect just because she feels lonely. It's her inner peace that won't let her compromise her dignity for a few moments of affection. When you know your worth, you stop treating love like it's a luxury you have to earn. You understand it's a basic requirement that comes naturally when two people align in respect, purpose, and integrity. Let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with wanting love. Wanting partnership is human. But begging for it, that's not your lane. That's not your destiny. That's not your story. Hi, Val. You woman doesn't send 20 messages trying to get someone's attention. She doesn't cry herself to sleep over a person who can't even show up halfway. She doesn't rearrange her life for someone who wouldn't move an inch for her, because she understands something that not everyone learns early. When someone really wants you, you'll know. You won't have to guess, you won't have to beg, and you sure won't have to shrink yourself to fit into their life. And when you woman sees the signs, when she sees inconsistency, disrespect, or lack of effort, she doesn't argue, she doesn't throw a tantrum, she doesn't chase, she leaves, not out of bitterness, not to make a statement, but because she understands what she deserves. She understands that love isn't about proving yourself to someone who doesn't see you. It's about aligning with someone who never stops valuing you from day one. There's power in silence, power in walking away, power in knowing that the greatest love story you'll ever live is the one you build with yourself. Because when you love yourself properly, you become the example of how others should love you too. And if they can't match that energy, if they can't show up with that same level of respect, then it's not a loss. It's a blessing in disguise, because peace is worth more than a forced relationship. Dignity is worth more than temporary attention. And your self-worth, that's non-negotiable. You don't need to fight for someone to choose you. You were already chosen the day you decided to choose yourself. You were already enough before anyone ever gave you a compliment, before anyone ever called you beautiful, before anyone ever said, "I love you." You were enough the whole time, and when you walk in that truth, you stop chasing love and start attracting it. The real kind, the lasting kind, the kind that doesn't make you question who you are, but reminds you who you've always been. When a woman truly understands who she is, there comes a time when silence becomes her greatest ally. Not because she doesn't have anything to say, but because she knows that not everything deserves a reaction. Silence to a high-value woman is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the calm in the middle of emotional storms that other people try to drag her into. She doesn't beg for someone to stay. She doesn't plead for clarity. And she sure doesn't break herself trying to explain her worth. Because when someone can't see your value, talking louder won't make them listen. That's the power of silence. When you've grown, when you've healed, and when you've been through enough to know better, you stop entertaining disrespect with your words. You stop responding to confusion with paragraphs, and you no longer give people the satisfaction of watching you unravel. A woman of value knows that the minute she starts chasing love with her voice, she's giving someone else the remote control to her peace. And peace, oh, peace is not something she gives up easily anymore. She had to fight to build it. She had to cry through the nights alone to earn it. So now silence is the gatekeeper of her energy. It takes a strong woman to keep quiet when everything in her wants to defend herself, explain herself, or just be heard. But silence is not surrender. It's strategy. When someone walks away, she doesn't run behind. She doesn't call, text, or show up uninvited. She respects herself too much to turn rejection into obsession. She allows her absence to do the talking, because anyone who has ever had access to a high-value woman knows that silence is louder than any goodbye. It echoes. It lingers. It makes people wonder if they just lost something they'll never find again. And most of the time, they did. A woman who's discovered her worth doesn't scream for love that hurts. She doesn't chase people who confuse her. She doesn't try to fix broken connections with desperate conversations. If someone leaves, she lets them. If someone ghosts, she doesn't haunt them back. Her silence is her boundary. Her quiet is her closure, because she knows the difference between being emotionally expressive and emotionally exploited. And when she feels like she's being manipulated, when the love feels conditional, she goes quiet, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares too much about herself. She doesn't confuse silence with punishment either. She's not trying to play games. Her silence is not to control or manipulate. It's to preserve, to protect her peace, her time, and her energy. She knows that engaging with someone who doesn't value her only drains her spirit. And she's done doing emotional labor for people who don't show up for her. She doesn't beg for effort. She doesn't beg for time. She doesn't beg for love. She embodies it. And anyone who can't see that doesn't belong in her life. People often think the loudest person wins, but a high-value woman knows better. She knows silence commands attention. When she stops texting, calling, explaining, crying, suddenly they notice. Suddenly they realize what they lost. But by then, it's not even about getting them back. It's about keeping her peace intact. She's not waiting for someone to wake up and finally appreciate her. She's already awake. She's already moving forward. Quietly, powerfully, she understands that the loudest moves are often made in silence. She lets her growth speak for her. She lets her glow do the talking. No long speeches, no dramatic exits, just presence, then absence. That's all it takes. And when she walks away without a word, that silence becomes the loudest message they'll ever hear. Because a woman who knows her worth never has to raise her voice to be heard. All she has to do is walk in silence and let them hear the footsteps of everything they lost. Let me tell you something right now. When a woman knows who she is, what she brings to the table, and the value of her heart, her peace, her loyalty, and her love, she does not bend herself into shapes to be accepted. She doesn't shrink herself to be digestible. She doesn't settle just to say she has someone. You woman does not beg for love, because she knows that love isn't something you pull out of somebody like a favor. It's not a coupon you redeem. It's not a rescue mission. It's not a negotiation. Love is a gift, and it's one that should be given freely, respectfully, and without conditions. You see, too many people confuse attention with affection. Just because someone texts you back or gives you compliments doesn't mean they love you. That's breadcrumbs. That's noise. That's distraction. And if you're not careful, you'll start lowering your standards just to keep crumbs coming, forgetting that you were made for the whole damn bakery. Val. You woman doesn't chase after someone who's unsure about her. She doesn't twist herself into a version that will make someone stay. She doesn't compromise her dignity to hold on to potential. She understands that standards are not obstacles, they're filters. They weed out the ones who were never worthy in the first place. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's not pride, it's peace. Because when you have spent enough time growing, healing, building yourself up, you become very careful about who you give your energy to. You don't just give your love to someone who hasn't earned your trust. You don't hand your loyalty to someone who can't even communicate with consistency. You don't entertain chaos and call it passion. You don't water people who show you every day they're not willing to grow. Val, you woman knows that love should never cost her her sanity, never cost her her sleep, never cost her her self-respect. Now people will call you difficult. They'll call you cold. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you're expecting too much. That's what happens when you stop letting them walk all over you. That's what happens when you say no more to being an emotional punching bag. That's what happens when you stop romanticizing inconsistency. And guess what? That's okay, because a woman of value would rather sit in silence alone than dance with someone who plays her like she's disposable. She would rather wait patiently for love that matches her depth than beg someone to love her halfway. She knows that real love isn't built on confusion, on games, on mixed signals. It's built on clarity, on consistency, and on truth. When you start to understand who you are, you stop needing others to validate you. You stop living for their approval. You stop performing for their love. You stop measuring your worth by their response, because your worth was never tied to their attention in the first place. Val, you woman knows that her love is a privilege, not a prize someone wins after stringing her along. She doesn't chase love, she embodies it. And when you become love, when you walk in self-respect, peace, and purpose, you naturally attract what's meant for you. You don't have to beg for it to stay, and here's what else happens. People start treating you differently when they realize they can't manipulate you with affection. They back off when they know you're not desperate for attention. They get uncomfortable when they see you don't need them to complete you. And the ones who are only around to benefit from your brokenness, they vanish, but let them. Because when you're standing in your power, when you're refusing to settle, you're not pushing love away. You're making room for the right kind of love to find you. The moment you choose standards over desperation is the moment everything changes. You start walking with a different kind of energy. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for expecting emotional maturity. You stop losing sleep over who didn't text you back. You stop breaking your back for people who won't even meet you halfway. You show up differently. You speak differently. You glow differently, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you finally remembered who you are. You are not an option. You are not a backup plan. You are not a maybe. You are the real deal. You are the one who brings peace, fire, strength, and softness all in one breath. You are not for the faint of heart. You are not for boys who don't know how to love a woman with a backbone. You are for the one who sees your worth without you having to scream it. And if they can't rise to your level, let them fall away. Ahai, Val, you woman knows. Love isn't something you beg for, it's something you become, and when you become it, you never have to chase it again. When someone leaves you, it hurts. There's no denying that. It feels like a piece of your soul has been ripped out, and you're left there holding the pieces, wondering what you did wrong, what you could have said differently, how you could have made them stay. But ahai, Val, you woman doesn't sit in that pain forever. She feels it, yes. She cries. She gets angry. She even replays every memory in her head until it becomes a blur. But then she stands up. Because she understands a deeper truth. When someone walks away from you, it's not your loss. It's your redirection. See, people don't always leave because you're not good enough. In fact, more often than not, they leave because they can't handle the greatness within you. Your strength, your peace, your honesty, it exposes the places in them they haven't grown yet. So instead of rising to meet you, they run, they avoid, they blame, and when you're still growing into your own power, that can confuse you. It can make you think they're eggs. It was your fault. But let me tell you something right now. A hive, Al. You woman doesn't chase after someone who is already walking away. She knows that doors don't close to punish her, they close to protect her. She's not out here begging for crumbs when she knows she's the feast. She doesn't sit around praying that someone comes back. She thanks God they left. That man who walked away, he might have done you the biggest favor of your life. Because what you didn't see, what your heart didn't want to admit, was the silent suffering, the emotional starvation, the inconsistency that was breaking you slowly. You were shrinking to fit into a space that was never built for your spirit. You were dimming your light so someone else could shine. You were giving second, third, fourth chances to someone who never deserved the first. And when he finally left, yes, it hurt. But deep down, your soul let out a sigh of relief. Because now, finally, you're free to heal, to grow, to evolve into the woman you were always meant to be. No more confusion, no more compromise, no more waiting on empty promises. Ahai, Val, you woman sees rejection as a divine reroute. She knows that every good bye carries within it the seed of a greater hello. She stops asking, why did he leave me? And starts realizing, why did I even let him stay that long? Her energy is not focused on getting someone back, it's invested in building someone stronger, herself. She learns to enjoy her own company. She takes herself out. She upgrades her life. She surrounds herself with peace instead of chaos. And little by little, she sees the truth. Losing him didn't break her. It built her. People will walk away from you and make it seem like you were the problem. They'll ghost you, lie to you, betray you, and then act like you're too much to handle. But the reality is this. They didn't leave because you were too much. They left because they weren't enough. They couldn't match your loyalty. They couldn't return your consistency. They couldn't stand your truth. And that's not a curse. That's a blessing. Because now you're no longer stuck trying to carry someone who should have been walking beside you. Now you're walking alone, but stronger, lighter, wiser, and next time, you won't just look at someone's words. You'll watch their patterns. You won't fall in love with potential. You'll wait for action. You'll recognize the red flags, and instead of painting them white, you'll honor them for what they are. That's the power that comes from rejection. It gives you clarity, focus, strength. So if someone left you, let them go. Let them walk. Let them think they won. Because while they're out there chasing temporary thrills, you're building a life of permanent peace. While they're out there searching for the next best thing, you're becoming the best version of yourself. While they're still figuring out what they want, you're attracting exactly what you deserve. You don't have to chase. You don't have to beg. You don't have to explain your worth to someone who never valued it. You are the prize. You are the peace, and no rejection can ever take that away from you. Let me tell you something about a woman who knows who she is. She doesn't sit around waiting for a man to validate her, and she definitely doesn't lower herself just to keep somebody in her life. She walks in a room like she owns the place, not because she's arrogant, but because she's already done the work to understand her worth. And when you know your worth, begging for love becomes unnecessary, undignified, and out of the question. You see, when you truly value yourself, you stop entertaining the bare minimum. You stop accepting halfway love, silence when you need answers, confusion when you deserve clarity. You stop saying, maybe he's just busy, when he's clearly not choosing you. You stop chasing texts, stop replaying conversations, stop trying to prove to someone that you are good enough. Ahai, Val, you woman never begs for love because love is not supposed to be begged for. It's supposed to be mutual, natural, and reciprocal. Let me be clear, there's a difference between wanting someone and needing them to complete you. A woman who knows her worth doesn't chase after someone who walked away. She doesn't cry over what could have been when what is was never meant to stay. She understands that love that's meant for her won't need convincing. It will come with clarity, consistency, and commitment. And if it doesn't come like that, she'll let it go without looking back. There is strength in standing alone while the world tells you to compromise. There is power in choosing peace over attention. The moment you start believing that being alone is better than being mishandled, mistreated, or misunderstood, that's the moment you rise. That's when you evolve. That's when you walk different, talk different, move different. People notice. They can't quite explain it, but they know you're not the same woman who used to wait by the phone or cry herself to sleep over someone who couldn't see her worth. This kind of woman doesn't measure her value based on who loves her. She doesn't dress herself up for acceptance. She builds herself from the inside out. She invests in her mind, protects her energy, grows her soul. And the truth is, when you step into that kind of power, people will try to test it. They'll see how much they can take before you say no. They'll want to know if that confidence is real or just something you say out loud. But when the test comes, ahai, Val, you woman doesn't flinch. She doesn't negotiate her worth. She doesn't explain why she's not going to tolerate disrespect, disinterest, or dishonesty. See, a woman like that walks away with grace. Not because she's cold, but because she refuses to beg for crumbs when she brings the whole table. She doesn't threaten to leave, she just leaves. She doesn't cry for closure, she creates it. She doesn't try to rewrite someone's character just to make them fit her fantasy. She faces the truth and moves on. That kind of woman doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. Her silence speaks volumes. Her presence is enough. Her absence is noticed. She's the kind of woman you remember not because she begged for you to love her, but because she loved herself too much to beg. There are people out there who will only love you if you shrink, if you stay small, if you remain unsure of yourself. They feed off your insecurity because it gives them control. But once you step into self-worth, you become uncontrollable. You become unreachable by anything that isn't real, deep, and true. And that's why a high-value woman is so rare. Because she's not chasing after temporary highs or shallow attention. She's not trying to be liked by everyone. She's focused on being respected by herself. So no, she doesn't wait for someone to choose her. She chooses herself every single time, and in doing so, she teaches the world how to treat her. She doesn't beg for love, because love that's real doesn't require begging. It recognizes her value and rises to meet her there.